Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. And we are live with a very special guest. And you know the drill. We'll be back in 1 second. And so here we are on this beautiful Saturday. And today I have a very special guest with me. And you know what we do here. Every week we bring entrepreneurs onto the hot seat. And we take them back to when they were facing their biggest challenges and struggles. And then we talk about how they overcame them to become the successful entrepreneurs they are today. And today I have Sebastian Lecona. Hi, Sebastian. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Naomi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no.
Nice intro, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited. I'm super excited to chat with you. And so why don't you let's start by introducing yourself. Everyone already knows who you are, but let's talk about what it is that you do, and then we'll go and start with all the good stuff.
Sounds great. Well, basically, I help creative leaders to share their message in a powerful way using the power of social media and branding.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I know I've seen your work. I love your work. And I know that you're a very creative person. And so I'm very curious to know what your journey was and to see how it is that you got to what it is that you do now. So let's talk about your younger years. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what was your experiences when you were young, and what were your troubles? What were you going through? What was life for you when you were young, Sebastian?
Sure. Well, first of all, I had a really good childhood. I had everything I could ask for. Like the only thing I can think of that I can whine about is that my parents were working all the time. But come on, whose parents were not working all the time, even up until today, right? So I actually had a very happy childhood with people who cared about me, with a close relationship with my cousins, with other parts of my family. And I had some nice opportunities to travel. And basically, it was a very happy childhood. But then I became a teenager and things started going a little bit of the route. I started getting into a deep depression. I had the dream of becoming a computer animator, but back on those days, there was barely a few places around the world to study that. In Mexico, there were no opportunities for this. And the only place that I found that really had what I wanted was Vancouver Film School, VFS. It was fantastic. I was amazed by how amazing their program looked, but it was like $50,000. That's like $1,000,000 more or less, and that was just the tuition. I also had to find a way to pay my living when I was there, and my family was a middle class family, so we had certain small luxuries, but paying a scholarship like that was impossible. So at one point, my dad told me, like, yeah, it's impossible. I'd love to help you, but that's just too much money even for me. So I'm sorry. And that really started like putting me in a situation like my dreams are unattainable. So what's the point of living? And I started going down in a spiral of depression, uh, getting every day worse and disconnecting myself from my feelings and from everyone around me. Then I started getting into alcohol. Here in Mexico, it's quite easy to buy alcohol without any kind of license or anything.
Just like in Spain, like literally, like 11-year-olds can go to the bar and order a beer. Problem. It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's
It's
crazy.
very similar here. So, very during my teenage years, I spent a lot of time drinking and smoking weed and going to parties. And at some point, I even thought that my life's purpose was to party. And I even said that to someone at some point. And now that I think about it, I'm like, that's so stupid. My life is so rich. But at that point, it made all sense. I felt I was completely alone, that no one could help me reach my goals. I didn't have a path. I just had to do what I was told. And being a rebel, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do what everyone tells me. I'm gonna live life my own way. And um, overall, it all brought me into a place where I didn't enjoy living, and I actually wanted to die. So um, after, I don't know, probably 3 4 years of this lifestyle, I reached a point that I actually decided to take action. Uh, and I grabbed a bottle of pills and took it to my room. I wrote a suicide note for my mom, and then I went into the we have like a little room in the rooftop. So I went there and then I started writing. Interestingly, um, my innate wisdom said me like, okay, you're gonna kill yourself, but first, at least write down what's happening to you. Write down what you're feeling and why you're doing this. Leave an explanation behind. And it was interesting because as soon as I started writing and letting my emotions on the paper, I immediately realized I was doing something stupid and I wasn't going to take those pills. But I stayed there. I was there like for 2 or 3 hours maybe, and no, actually, I think even more, but at least 2 or 3 hours by myself until my mother arrived and she came with all the family, a lot of my cousins from Spain, and my uncles from Spain. And it was like his boyfriend from Argentina, and everyone came into the home. And my mom found this letter of her son saying like, goodbye, I'm leaving, and so farewell. And I don't know what else I wrote, but that was like the turning point in my life, because from there everything started changing. Luckily, my parents, even though they were divorced, they were very close to each other. Like when it came to me, they always closed their ranks to find what was better for me. So as a family, we worked it out. We tried to find a couple different alternatives. At some point, a few months earlier or something, I mentioned to my dad that I really hated life in the city, and I wanted to live in the countryside. I loved nature, I loved animals, I loved plants. So I didn't really want to live in the city. And he, by that time when I had my suicide attempt, he was working on a project gathering all the shamans from Mexico to make a ceremony for a special event that we have here in Mexico. And one of those shamans has community in the middle of the woods where he receives volunteers from all over the world, and he teaches them permaculture, or he invites them to learn permaculture, and he brings people who knows about plants, about uh, ecological buildings, and all that kind of stuff that's living in harmony with nature. And I was amazed. Well, my parents decided to send me there. Like I didn't have much of a choice. My dad was like, "Hey, do you want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, sometime it would be good." Okay, you have an airplane ticket. You leave tomorrow. And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait! My life here, my friends, my parties. What's going on?" And I was like, he told me like, "Okay, take it easy. You can go one weekend, and if you don't like it, you can come back on Sunday, and that's fine. If you want to stay longer, you can stay longer. You decide, but you have your ticket to leave tomorrow. What happens next doesn't really matter." I was like, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
well, yeah.
No, I'm so sorry. I lost connection for a little bit. So, wow, I wasn't able to hear your last part.
Oh,
Um,
no.
yeah, I know. I can't even believe it. It's terrible.
Yeah,
Um,
basically, I was telling that when I hit this point of like even trying to take my life,
yeah,
I my family got together and they sent me into a place that had everything that I wanted. That was living in nature, having in contact with animals, learning how to cultivate and eating whatever we cultivated. And interestingly, that it was the community of Mexican shamans. So I also had the chance to reconnect to my spirit. And every day I meditated. Like I spent 3 months. At first, I was going uh, according to me for one weekend, but I arrived there. The arriving was kind of hard because we arrived by night. It was raining. It was muddy. It was like such a mess. I was really picky with food. So when we arrived, all this organic food, and you know, I was like, I don't want this. What's happening? I'm leaving tomorrow. I don't. But when I woke up and opened the doors from, well, the windows from my bedroom, there was a beautiful lake with a couple of volunteers from all over the world working the field or doing arts or doing like a lot of things. And I was like, well, okay, this might be better than I thought. And
Yeah.
I ended up staying for 3 months there, like just reading a lot and meditating and trying to heal all those parts that were broken within me. And by doing so, I realized that I had a unique set of abilities, of skills, a perspective, a vision of the world that could help at least a few people, and that it was selfish of me to leave this plane without sharing that with others. So even though I was still depressed, I embraced an attitude of serving. Like, okay, if I don't care about my life, I'll surrender it to something greater. And however long it takes, I'll be here just to help as many people as I can. And it was funny because in doing so, I found my purpose, I found my happiness, I got out of depression. And it was all thanks to this attitude of serving.
It's yeah, you said so many things though that are important. Because sometimes when we get so wrapped up in ourselves, we forget exactly. We forget what it is that we're supposed to do or why we're here for, and we lose sight of really what's important. And sometimes just thinking of ourselves is what bogs us down. When we think of others, when we are in service, and when we think of, even if it's something greater than yourself, like you said, something greater than yourself is what's going to be able to get you out of yourself. That's what people don't understand. Sometimes we're so wrapped up in ourselves that we can't see clearly. So it takes something bigger than you actually to be able to pull you out. Now, let me ask you, how long do you think you were in that depression, and how long did that stage last when you were partying? And I want to talk about how you were feeling actually throughout those moments. How long do you think that stage lasted? And then let's talk about a little bit how you were feeling, because I know you were depressed, but what was going on inside your head? What was the talk?
Well, actually, the talk inside my head was, I'm happy and I'm doing whatever I want. And I didn't even realize I was manipulating everyone. I actually felt quite proud of being able to manipulate people as I manipulated them. Like, really, if I told you how many amazing things I pulled out, like out of nowhere, you would be amazed. But it was all based on my ego, trying to uh, get away from my feelings and get away from who I was and what I was feeling. And I made a lot of damage to everyone around me, and starting by myself. So I think one of the things that actually started making the shift was that point when I started writing my emotions, because up to that point, I didn't recognize my negative emotions, and they were bottling up inside of me. And that was what I was drinking, a lot of poison.
Yeah.
And later on with therapy, I realized that was the root of my depression. All that sadness and all that anger that I was holding back because I was in this mindset of I want to be happy, 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 and always happy, and everything's happy, and I'll take whatever I need to take to make me happy. And that was probably around 5 years of my life, I think.
Well, it was a long time. Yeah, it's a long time.
And
It's
it's
funny. It's funny you talk about manipulation. And I noticed this a lot. I also became very manipulative. And there's a big difference between being persuasive and being manipulative.
mhm,
We want to be able to persuade people with our words and our actions, and we want to be able to attract. But manipulation is a completely different thing. I think persuasion is geared more towards serving, towards offering a good. Manipulation is more, like you said, more involved around the ego, more involved around personal satisfaction. And I also think it has to do with the fact that since we're unhappy, we're trying to find happiness in things. And so that manipulation gives us that temporary satisfaction.
Mhm.
But it doesn't last for very long, does it?
Yeah, I agree. And the problem is that manipulation is fueled by scarcity and by pain. Like when you act from a place of pain and from a place of actually not wanting to recognize what you have inside of you, it's a huge problem. When you give the other person the opportunity of, okay, I want to persuade you because I believe this is the best way to go, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna go over your values, I'm not gonna step over you to make that happen. And with manipulation, those rules don't exist. Like you'll do anything and everything just to get what you want.
Exactly. Did this cost you? And I want to briefly just thank everyone for watching. And we have our friend Wakas who's here. Hi. It's so good to see you again. And we're talking to Sebastian Lecona, and we're talking about his childhood experiences and what he went through to get to where he is now. And in particularly, today we're talking about depression. And I'm glad that we're talking about this because right now we're at a time where depression is prevalent, especially among youth. And I really believe that what you're saying is true. Sometimes when, as human beings, we need to have an aim. We are creatures that grow from progress. And when we don't have an aim, we don't have something to look forward to, we don't have a direction where to walk towards, we stay still, we become stagnant. And I believe this is the root of a lot of depression and then a lot of addiction. Because, of course, as human beings living this experience, we all want to be happy and we all want to feel good. But when we search for happiness, that satisfaction is fleeting. It's not lasting. The key in life is to find something that is meaningful and that is able to fulfill you, because fulfillment trumps happiness any day, because you can be fulfilled and still have an unhappy day. You can have a day that goes bad, but you're still fulfilled because you have that aim, that target, that vision, that mission, that purpose that we're all talking about, that we need to look forward to, because as humans, like I said before, that's what we need. So when you got to this camp, okay, at the beginning, you're saying you didn't like the food, you didn't like this. How long did it take you to adjust? Because I know that for a lot of young people, that's the biggest thing. They think, oh, here I am. Oh, I don't like it. This doesn't feel right. And our tendency is to quit. What was your
Well,
experience?
for me, it was really quickly. Like the food, maybe it took me a little bit longer because I was really picky with food. But after the first night I was in this place, like I woke up and I just saw the beauty of nature and the beautiful people around there and everyone happy. And it was amazing. Like just, I remember that the shift happened overnight. I remember that my whole attitude towards this place changed when I woke up with birds singing in my ears, like a lot of birds in the trees, and it was beautiful. And I opened the window and there was this magical place with a beautiful crystalline river where there were beautiful girls running around, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And I stayed there for 3 months instead of 3 days. That was the original plan. So
That's fantastic. And so what helped you? What did you do there that started getting your life in the right direction? Was it the change of food? Was it, because I know that, we hear a lot that it says it takes a village. What was it in particular, so that the young people can understand? What was it in particular that started changing your mind, getting you out of that depressive state, and putting you towards the direction that you're saying that how you found your purpose and your mission?
I think a lot had to do with all the internal work and all the time I spent with myself. Uh, the first time, like the first month or 2 months that I was there, I spent a lot of time reading and meditating and really digging into what was inside of me. I wrote a lot, like a lot of. I started writing my dreams, and basically contacting with that part of myself that I had neglected for so long. But in also like being in a place where there was this feeling of community, where it felt like family and where everybody supported each other, and we were able to say like, yeah, I'm completely screwed up, and I have all these flaws, and I still deserve love, right? Like, because that was the feeling. Like, it doesn't matter how bad you are here, every day you have the chance to start again. And they actually have a ritual that's very powerful for that. That's called a temazcal. It's very similar to a sweat lodge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the idea is that you go, it's like this place very close to the earth, on the rocks, where it's like a sauna. But the idea is that you go into the womb of Mother Earth, reconnect with the elements: earth, water, fire, air,
Mm-hmm.
and spirit. And then you give everything that you don't want into the fire, so you can come out as a new person.
Kind of like rising like the phoenix.
Kind of like rising like the phoenix, exactly.
I'm a person that believes in rituals. I believe that well, the universe works on order, on habits and rituals and nature, and we should follow them. I mean, every mentor that you talk to tells you should have a ritual. I believe that it helps us in becoming who we are and getting, like you said, closer to nature, because as after all, we are part of nature, and sometimes we lose that. We get so wrapped up in technology and in all of this that we forget. We forget to stop, take a second, sit back, and think about what it is that we want. And that's what I noticed that you said. You, for the first time, was this the first time that you actually started asking yourself these questions, like, what do I want? What will make me happy? Is this when you started seeing the change in your head, when you started writing these things down and doing these things?
More than the things themselves, like actually believing that I was able to do them. Before that, I had like my hope really destroyed. I didn't believe I could do anything. I felt completely insignificant. Like there was this huge sea of information out there, and a lot of people being amazing all around the world. And who was I? I was doing nothing with my life, and I was unable to go towards my dreams, and there was no one who could help me. So um, yeah, it was a, I think that was very.
No, but that's a good point. That's a good point, because I see that a lot of young people get into that state as well. And I think what happens is what you said. You get online and you see all these people that are doing so well. So many people are doing what you think you want to do, because you see that their life looks great, and so you say, I want to do that. But sometimes, and then you can't do it, and then you feel hopeless. And it's sitting down and actually analyzing exactly what it is that you want to do, and writing what it is that you're good at. Sometimes we see other people doing something, and we don't know their journey. We don't know how long they took to get there. We don't know exactly how they feel. Sometimes we all post things online, and you don't know that this person might be having some, terrible hardship behind the scenes. And we think that everything is just beautiful. We all experience hardships, and we all struggle through this journey, all to get to where we are. That's the one thing you said. But another thing that I want to touch on is the feelings of guilt and shame and unworthiness. So at this point, you were feeling a little guilty, and I feel that tends to bog us down. Is that something that you had to shed while you were there too? Were you, those feelings that you had about yourself?
Not that much. It took me longer to really tap into those things. Actually, the feeling of unworthiness is something that I still have to work every now and then, right? Because um, I think we always have like those things. And that's something I think it's really important. When you have something greater than yourself, it doesn't matter if you're high or low, you're moving forward, right? Things keep going, you keep changing, you can keep learning and finding new ways to solve the problems that repeat in your life, because life keeps going on. And when you're not hanged on being in the highs and fearing the lows, and you simply accept them and just go with the flow, everything starts changing, because you that was also something that was what actually started getting me out of my depression, being able to say, hey, I have a lot of sadness inside of me, I have a lot of anger, I haven't cried a tear in 5 or 7 years, I don't know how long, like I couldn't even remember when was the last time I cried my last tear. And I had family members dying, and reasons to cry I had, but I was unable to cry because I was completely disconnected from my feelings. I thought that by disconnecting the hate and like the sadness and the anger, I would be fine. But the thing is that you cannot disconnect those without disconnecting the other ones. So I was unable to feel the happiness and the joy, and basically everything became gray. Like nothing had any relevance in my life.
Yes. No, you're 100% right. And as human beings, we're not one thing. That's what I always say. Like some people say they want to strive for money, but if you are not happy in all the other aspects of your life, we need to have a spiritual life. We need to have relationships because that's what we're all about. We need to have all of these things. It's mind, body, and soul. You know, you can't take care of one part. If the other part is affected, it's gonna affect the other parts eventually. Absolutely. And that's why I find so important. And I want everyone to understand that writing things down is going to help you understand what it is that you're feeling. Because sometimes in the search of that happiness, like we're talking about, we tend to repress all the other emotions. Because, you know, as humans, we are either trying to run towards pleasure or we're trying to escape that pain. Once again, because we don't want to feel these feelings, you know, but then we forget the essence of what it all is about. So now that we're here, so what was the process and how did you now, when you left this program, what did you start doing? How is it that you actually found your vision and how is it that you started to find your way around to where you are now?
Well, first of all, being in this community, I realized that I needed money. I wanted to buy some land here and build something similar to this place, but by my own, or not by my own, but with them. But I wanted to have something that I could create for myself and my family and whatever were to come next. Um, and I wasn't able to really produce any kind of money here. Maybe there I could have started working in jewelry and little by little growing, but those were not my skills. I realized that all my skills with design and storytelling and all that stuff could help a lot of people, and that's my best way to help, with storytelling and telling great stories that change how people think, that change how people act, uh, that basically change reality. I believe stories have that power. So I came back to the city, and interestingly, I found a course for After Effects, and I started getting back into the computer animation stuff. And I said, like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to go to BFS. Who cares? I'll do whatever I can with what I have here. So I started learning this program and started finding little jobs within my family and friends of my family who needed some animated graphics. Um, and after a little bit of that, a new college opened like a few blocks away from my house, and their specialty was computer animation. And I watched their curriculum, and it was like perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but at least it was animation. Before that, the other schools, I saw the curriculum, and it was like web development and mathematics and physics, and I was like, that's not animation. What the hell? So I entered into college and I started developing those skills. Unfortunately, I had to leave college and drop out like after 9 months because I was paying for my tuition, uh, and they told me like, yeah, you're gonna be able to work and study, it's gonna be fine. And once I started going into college, it was impossible to work. I had to spend 12 hours a day at least doing things from school, and that was it. So I don't want to make the story long, but I had to drop out. Interestingly, after I dropped out, I started working in a national TV channel doing computer animation, because I had already when I came into college, I knew how to use the software, but I didn't have like the theory behind it, and color theory, design theory, and all that stuff. In college, I got that. And when we were going to start seeing the software, I had to drop out. And I got this other job, actually working at a national TV broadcast channel. So it was a pretty huge leap.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But I want to point out this because it's very important. When you're on the right track, the universe puts things on the right way. And I want everyone to understand that sometimes, because I understand your story and something similar happened to me, sometimes we want something and it doesn't pan out immediately. And that's what we are. We're creatures that want instant gratification. We want it now. We want it now. And so then we get disappointed and we lose our way. But look at what you did. You started once you got on the right track, you started working and finding your way. And then look how the universe started putting things in the right direction for you. They actually opened a school that was close to you. Had you not gone back and started once again trying to find your way in the things that now you knew you wanted to do, that opportunity probably wouldn't have presented itself in front of you. But when you're doing the right thing, then the universe has a tendency to bless you, because look, you got the school, and then even though you had to end the school, but what happened? You had some knowledge, and now
I got the job.
Exactly. But you didn't stop, you didn't quit. Just because you didn't go to school, you got the program and you started working on it at home. And that's what I want people to understand. When we become resourceful, the universe blesses you. It does bless you. And so then you started working with the television, with, I think it's fantastic. So what happened there? We're at this part of the journey. So how did that go?
Well, I spent 2 years working at this TV channel, doing really cool stuff and working with amazing people. And after that, I realized that I couldn't stay with a routine. Like I started like my life draining away from me, because I had to wake up at a special time. And even though my work was fantastic and my boss was the best and very thoughtful and empathetic, and like everything was perfect, and I still didn't feel like really happy doing any of that. I wanted to travel, I wanted to live in nature and do all this stuff. So I quit my job and I went back to Chiapas. Well, first I went with a cousin of mine who told me like, oh, maybe you can find an animation job here in Merida, in my agency. And I went 1 month with him, but things were not moving forward. So another opportunity opened up back in the community. A friend of mine, actually the son from the shaman who became my friend, was opening his own jewelry workshop and wanted my help to build a brand and create an e-commerce store and all that stuff. And I went with him, and basically things were moving like a lot. I was doing a lot of things. I was doing, yes, design and all this stuff, but I was also doing tattoos, and I was also doing circus, and I was like spreading myself too thin. And like for 4 years, I was selling organic products, and I was like basically doing whatever I could
to make money.
But one day I realized, thanks to my career as a tattoo artist, I realized that the time that went by in between one tattoo and the next one made my skills go back. I was like, okay, I started realizing that I was pushing a lot of little things. So I pushed something here and then here and then here and then here and then here. And when I came back to this one, it was back at the starting point. So it was as if I hadn't pushed anything. So I said like, okay, I need to focus on one thing, choose one of all of these different things that I can do and focus on that to really become good and grow and start getting tangible and significant results. Because otherwise it's like trying to blow a balloon and then leaving it there and trying to blow another one, and there it's not gonna be complete at any time. You gotta finish one balloon, make it big, as big as it can be, and then close it, and okay, maybe then you can go to another one, but
Yeah. No,
otherwise it's impossible.
yeah, it's I think it happens to a lot of creative people. It's you have so many ideas, you want to do so many things, and then it is exactly what happens. And you start to dabble. It's like the shiny object syndrome. This happens a lot also in network marketing. You're like, this one, no, this one, no, this one.
Mm-hmm.
But that's such a good point. You have to narrow it down. You have to become an expert in one thing. You have to get good at that one thing, because that's the way our mind works. It's like you said, we take something and we learn it. If we don't practice that one thing, I can't believe that in 24 hours, you will forget 80% of what you read the day before.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're working on a little project or you're doing something and then you leave that for a week or two and you come back to it a week later, guess what? You might as well start over, because that's exactly what you're doing to your brain. So it's better if you do like you said. So what did you decide to do? How did you focus your attention and find your way?
So I decided that design was what I was good at, like storytelling. So I dropped everything else and I started my agency. I decided to found my business, Cataplasma. By that time, I was living with another friend who was an audio engineer and who was in the same college I was in, and we had been friends for a long time. And we got this project and we could work together on it, so we decided to start the business there. And after that project, he said, like, you know what, I'm gonna pursue my career as a movies director, so thank you and goodbye. And now he's doing pretty good with that, and we're also working together. But I started Cataplasma at that point, and I was like, okay, I have now this business, right, this design business or whatever. What if I start learning how does someone create a design business? How does the design business work? How can I get more clients? And I started asking all of these things in Google and YouTube. And at one point, I discovered one video from the future without the E at the end. And these guys are amazing. Basically, they teach everything you need to know about the creative business and how to run and grow a creative business. And it was like finding the holy grail. Because up until this point, I felt like I was a somewhat good designer, somewhat good animator, that I wasn't really good. I wasn't talented, but I worked a lot and really tried to become better. So that made me somewhat better than the average, but still not like a long way, really far away from the top designers, right? Like the people I worked with in the TV channel were incredible. Like I couldn't dream of getting to those levels of motion graphics and 3D, and they are true artists. So I was like in this place where I was in the middle of everything. And when I found the future, I realized that there's this thing that puts everything together: web, motion graphics, design, business, entrepreneurship. And I was advertising, and it's called branding. And I was like, oh, tell me more about this. Oh, what's brand strategy? And it's strategy. Well, I certainly don't use my strategic skills in design, so I'm interested. And as soon as I realized that brand strategy was a thing, I realized that was what I was good at. That was my thing. Not being good at any specific thing by themselves, but at putting them all together and making them work together.
Yes. Yes, but what you're saying is true, because sometimes we all have a dream. We all have something that we want to do, right? But, and I say this every time because that's how it felt like to me. You have your dream and it looks like the Disney castle, but you know that the Disney castle has a whole bunch of clouds. So when you're looking at it, you don't see the path, you know, and you're like stumbling your way. But we all know that in order to be really good at something, so in order to be an expert, it takes a certain amount of hours. And what happens with all of us is when we get to that point, like you said, we're around other people that are better than us.
Mhm.
You know, we start once again because we are creatures who are based on perception. We see ourselves through the reflections of others in this reality. Then we start to once again compare. And we all do this. I don't think that there's a human being on earth that doesn't do this. So we tend to compare, and this will bring us down. But the point is to keep on and keep on doing the work. And then once again, the things, like you said, every time that you're ready, magically that next step will be there for you when you're going to take it. So when you're
Mhm.
ready, the right things, the right people, even the right videos on YouTube will
Mhm.
come your way. So then you
Exactly.
found this, exactly, you found this video. And once again, now it's more defining that purpose that you had. Now it's becoming more like a vision, right?
Exactly. And that's what Paulo Coelho says in his book, The Alchemist. That's the reason I love that book. Even a lot of people say like it's really corny or whatever. I feel it's very true. Once you commit to your dreams, the whole universe conspires in your favor and
Yes,
it helps you.
absolutely. No, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does.
Because I think that when you're not truly committed, whatever happens is gonna stop you, and you're gonna say like, ah, yeah, of course I was not able to do that. Everybody told me I was not going to be able to do that, and there's the proof. And you can always get into that or get a mindset that I'm gonna get there. I don't care how. If I can see it, I can get there, and I don't care what I have to do. I'll be there. And this brings me to another thing that I think it's really important. I didn't really see my own value, right? Like it's really hard to see our own value. And it's very easy to see the value from other people, right? We see someone, oh, he's really good at this. And we see the other one, oh, he's really good at that. But if you go into, I don't know, John, that's really good at writing, and you read something and you say, like, oh, this is fantastic. Probably John reads his own thing and he's like, I could have improved this could have been better. That other guy's better, right? So
Absolutely.
one thing that I can say that helps a lot with that is putting yourself out there. And it doesn't matter how good or bad you are. If you think you can help someone, go with them and share with them what you have and do it again and again and again. And over time, people start helping you see your own value as well. Like what has helped me realize my own value was actually doing that, saying
Yes.
like, okay, I don't know if this is a lot of or this is too little, but this is what I got, and I'm here to share it. And over time, from doing that, people started reaching out like, oh wow, you're really good at this. And my tribe started helping me find what was my biggest strength and what's the best way I can help.
Yes. Now, I want to touch on something because we're talking about all of this and all the work that you're doing, but I want to talk about your state of mind because you started one way and now we're here. I want to know through this entire process, did your depression just magically disappear?
No, I had to work through it, and it was something that went little by little. And I wouldn't say it disappeared. It's like it's sleeping. It's something that's there and that's not active, but I know it's there. And sometimes I even since when there's the 2 years ago, I feel like I haven't been depressed, but I have been through some difficult situations and moments in my life that made me feel really sad and betrayed. And some, like one of my friends, uh, the guy from the jewelry, ended up betraying me with my girlfriend, and they stole from me, and stuff like that
Yes.
pushed
Yes.
me in a could have put me in that same place. And I felt depression like just underneath, lying there, like I'll pop as soon as you start repressing your emotions. So I was sure to cry as much as I needed. I started putting a lot of emphasis in not holding anything back. If I was sad, if I was angry, I had to find a way to put that out, because if not, it was food for the depression monster that lives inside of me, if that makes sense.
No, and it's true. And I don't know if this is something, I think it's more predominant in men. We think that in order to overcome a situation, that we have to swallow it
Yeah.
and, and be
Toughen up.
and toughen up. And I want everyone to know that that is not the case. Being strong is something completely different.
Yeah, actually, being strong is being able to take that emotion, face it, cry, feel anger, feel whatever you gotta feel, and have the strength to not let it overcome you. Like it,
Yes.
being able to control your actions and don't hurt yourself or anyone else because of those emotions. That's true strength.
Yes, yes. And I know that there was a point that you actually got to that point. How long from that moment that you felt like my life isn't worthwhile? I don't think that I can go on living. Uh, at that moment, how long do you think the process was to where you were here? Where, let's say, where you faced once again that challenge? Because I really believe that life, although it puts the right people and the right things in your direction when you're going on the right way, it does test you to see if you're ready. So, like you said, because life, the universe is funny and it has a sense of humor. It's it's not all green pastries and sunshine and rainbows. Life comes with challenges and hardships, and the key in life is learning how to deal with the challenges. So betrayal to me is one of the most painful experiences that you can have, and betrayal in combination with heartbreak and in combination with someone taking something that is of your personal value is something that will crumble most people, will break them down. So how were you able to challenge that? Because had that happened to you a couple of years ago, you probably would have lost your way.
It's interesting because something similar happened like 4 years before, 5 years before. Another guy that was supposed to be my best friend also stole from me and my family, and he was a complete douche. So I also feel that this second time that happened was because I hadn't learned my lesson. And this time the lesson was pretty clear. And that other factor of having the girl who was my girlfriend in that time involved was what actually made the difference, because I really gave her everything, my best self. I supported her dreams. I financed her projects. I financed everything in her life. I paid for everything. I even paid for her trips, and even when I was not going with her, like I don't mean that paying for stuff is giving my everything, but I was truly in a position to talk with her and listen. I was very open. I gave her like my truest self. I accepted every mistake I made. I tried to find ways to overcome situations. I always chose to believe in her, even when I saw a lot of things that told me that I shouldn't, like, and instead of saying like, oh, I'm such a stupid guy, I realized like, hey, I have these beautiful things to share. I believe there's a lot of value in everything I gave her, and it's sad that she's not able to see that, but that doesn't mean I'm worthless. Actually, that means I'm worth a lot. And actually, that feeling of recognizing my own worth was what actually put me in a position to say, you know what, bye bye. I don't want to see you again. You continue with your life, and I'll continue mine. And I know this time it worked because my closest people are people who recognize my value and who respect me and who basically are in the same tune as I am. Like when I give, I get back. When they give, I give them back. It's something more harmonic. And in the other relationships, it was like I put something out there and it disappeared, and I put something else again, and whatever I put out disappeared, and nothing ever came back.
Yes. No, what you're saying is 100% true. And this is very important because for young people, they want love, they want relationships. But what they have to understand is that if you want someone to love you, truly love you have to love yourself, because we are mirrors and people are reflecting what they see back. You think that someone's treating you a certain way, but in a way, it's because you are allowing it. In a way, it's because you are not treating yourself the way that you should. And so other people they might not consciously understand it. They might not consciously understand what they're doing, because I've seen experiences where people are like, well, this person cheated on me, but then now look at them with them married and with kids. Well, why did this happen? Then the problem is we have to look within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have to find that love within. And in order to receive that, first we have to have it. Because if you're an empty well, you're not going to draw out what it is that you want. So obviously this happened to you and you learned the lesson.
I learned the lesson, hopefully, yeah. But I believe I did. And I felt something changing inside of me. Like I think it was also linked to, like, just interestingly, I think that same breakup was what healed me from depression. After that, I cried a lot. Like, I spent months crying and really feeling hurt, but I felt it, and I used that opportunity to let other sadness and other anger that I had bottled up inside of myself come out. So I think that's what actually it was actually a blessing. Even it, sometimes we need difficult things to actually learn our lessons. At least I know I have to experience things in myself. Like, I didn't believe drugs were a problem until I felt it in myself, and I felt how drugs were affecting my life and my brain and my ideas. And I was like, okay, now this is what they were telling me, right? And but I also think that we can put a lot of attention in other people's lives and what life is trying to tell us. Because before we get those huge sucker punches of life, the lesson had been presenting itself in our lives for so long. Like, the first time it comes to us, it's like, hey, check this out. You want to look that way. And if you say, like, nah, I'm looking that way, don't bother me. It's like, okay. And then it comes back and, hey, that way, I'm telling you something's happening. Nah, don't bother me. I'm going that way. And then it keeps increasing its intensity until it's like, hey, you look up, you're going to die. Look that way now.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. And then the problem is that the tap on the shoulder every time gets louder and louder till they're like, hey, pay attention. And that's what life is. It's lessons. And sometimes when we get those hardships, what we tend to do is want to run, want to escape it, want to not face it, want to not feel it. But what we have to understand is that if you don't face that one, another one is going to come in the future. And this time it's going to be a little bit bigger.
Because it's going to have all this experience bottled up in it.
Exactly. So let me ask you, Sebastian, what advice would you give to someone young who maybe is depressed, who's feeling a little lost? Where would you tell him to start? What would you tell him to do?
First of all, finding positivity, either through music or listening to things that they love, or trying to block away all the negativity, because I know how crushing it can be. And that's something that I feel helps a lot, or that has helped me a lot, is breathing and writing. Like, when something's really hard, writing it down helps me make sense out of it. Or even talking to the camera, recording a video in my cell phone, even if no one sees it, but putting it out there somehow. If you have a trusted friend that you can actually talk to, that's always better. It's always good to share this with other people. And it also helps us realize that we are all in deep shit and we're in this together, right? So it's a lot easier if we're in this together than if we try to face our own pain by ourselves. Because by healing others, we also heal ourselves. So that's another thing. I would say focus on helping others. If you truly feel like, well, I don't know, I went through this. Like, I felt my life was pointless. I didn't want my life. So I had to go into a point of saying, okay, if I really don't care if I live or I die, because I constantly said that to me. I don't care if I live or die. I don't care if I live or die. So one day I faced I confronted myself, and I was like, okay, so you really don't care if you live or you die? Okay, then suck it up and push forward and use your life to share the valuable things that you have. Like, if you don't care, at least make it good for the people around you.
Right, that's a good point. That is a very good point. And yeah, absolutely true. I completely forgot what I was going to say because I was so into, like what you were saying, but it is true. And I want to point out that people forget who we are. We're energy beings, and everything that we think of, okay, thoughts are things. Everything is measured in frequency and in waves. So just because you think a thought and you're not thinking it anymore, it's not gone. This is all that stays inside you, and we have chakras, and we have different fields as human beings. We have several fields. Now, this is why writing is so important. And like you said, even if it is recording yourself, whether it's writing it or recording it, even if it's just for you, the simple act of getting it out of your body, right there, that is already an improvement. You're going to feel much, much, much lighter. So that is a fantastic example. That's why I always encourage everyone to journal. And sometimes you don't even know what you're going to write, but it doesn't matter. Keep writing. Sometimes you will be surprised of the things you had inside and the things you didn't even know.
Yeah, actually, creativity is what helped me start mirroring those feelings, right? I started drawing and painting and doing a lot of stuff out of intuition. And later I realized that it was my inner wisdom trying to tell me something one way or another.
Yeah. That's why I want to spark creativity again. It really saddens me that creativity and fitness and music has been taken out of our school systems, because I believe that creativity is the spark of life. Everything that we've seen in this world was once someone's idea, was once someone's thought. If we take away this creativity, then what will be of the world? We need this. We need this inspiration. And before I forget, I want to thank everyone who has been jumping on. If you guys want to tell us where you're at, if you have any questions, we're so happy that you're here with us and listening to our stories and listening to Sebastian's story. And we want to thank you so much for supporting us. And I want to thank you, Sebastian, for being so honest and sharing your story with me today.
Thank you for opening up this space. And I think it's something really important. I wish I had some light when I was, well, actually, I got some light when I was in the middle of depression, and that was what actually helped me pull through. I had a lot of loving people and people who accepted me and helped me realize that I was valuable as who I am. So if anyone's watching this and helps them feel that way and that they are not alone and that they can reach out to someone who has faced something similar, or at least that gives them a few things that can help them go through this difficult situation, I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
And actually, I would like to summarize the 3 things that I would suggest to anyone who's going through depression. Just summarizing what we've talking about, the 3 things that helped me get out of depression were recognizing my feelings, realizing that yes, I feel sadness, yes, I feel anger, yes, I feel happiness, and all my emotions are okay. It's okay for me to feel them, and they have a purpose, right? The second thing is letting those emotions out in a way that doesn't hurt you or somebody else. So some creative expression, or talking to a person that you can trust, a therapist, or letting it out of your system. And I forgot what was the third one. Oh, I remember now. Focus on on serving others. If you focus on sharing what you have, no matter how much or how little, if you focus on sharing what you have to help others with that pure intention, like without wanting to get anything back, just saying, hey, I have this, I think this can help you. Do you think this can help you? Yes, I think. Okay, let me share it with you. That's it. Really, those 3 things are magical, and I certainly believe that those are the 3 things that changed or that actually pulled me out of depression.
No, that's fantastic. And thank you so much for once again, like mentioning them and making them clear. And I just want to put out a couple of comments because one, Waka says your guest is an amazing person. I know. I love Sebastian.
Thank you, Waka.
And Katie, hi Katie, how are you? And hello from Sebastian and Naomi. And we have other comments here too. But once again, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Sebastian, thank you so much. I think that your story is fantastic. And I hope that it helps some young people who are feeling what you were feeling when you were young before, to find a way to get out of that and understand that we all go through this in life. What you're feeling is not alone to you. You might feel that you're alone because when we are in this state, when we are in our heads, we feel so alone, and we
Mhm.
tend to experience it alone. But you are not alone, and there are other people that have gone through it, and through these experiences you can learn a way to manage and a way to get through it successfully. So
Yeah.
yes. So I guess for now, we're going to be done for today. I want to thank everybody so much. And again, thank you, Sebastian. And I want to remind everybody to live legendary and have a fantastic weekend.